Hello, I'm Stewart Rome. I'm an actor who came back to the profession 4 years ago, loving every minute, and I'm represented by Mary Liz Management.
Ian.
Hello, I'm Ian Laing, Scottish actor, voice artist, come to acting later in life, focusing primarily on screen roles.
Catherine.
Hello, I'm Catherine Adams. I'm a actor, voice artist, and who also writes and directs sometimes as well. Got about 20 years, probably over 20 years now, experience in the business. Hail from theatre, do everything else, and everything you need to know about me career-wise is on my website, catherineadams.org.
John.
Hello, my name is John Micheal Foulger. I'm also repped by Mary Liz Management. I'm known for the big screen, little screen, commercials, and would love to get into radio.
And I'm Angela Elliott, and I'm a scriptwriter of some 35 years standing, starting with documentaries and moving into drama and TV, on TV and film. And we enjoy reading scripts from writers who have submitted them. So this one is Paget, a pilot episode, The Little Dipper, by Robert Fenner. Exterior street day, super, London, East End, 1900. Arthur Higson, poor, tired 30s, wheels his barrow to a stop. Harriet Higson, poor but proud 30s, his wife, comes to the door with little Alfie, 10, lively.
Well,
Arthur smiles and jingles some coins, he gives them to her.
Good day.
blow it, Arthur. That's 3 days on the trot. We've made do with pie, crusts, and cold pudding. I'm sending Alfie round for a penny bit and a ha'porth twice. That'll do the 3 of us.
I'll take the barrier round. I'll take the barra round. Who do you reckon will be first? Alfie, me, or you?
Harriet gives Alfie some coppers and off he races. The streets are bustling with other costermongers, hawkers and passers-by. Alfie dives into the chip shop. 2 or 3 conspicuously well-dressed women, mid-20s, walk by, talking earnestly. One of them is confident Christina Lewis. Alfie emerges with a paper parcel.
Say hello to your mum and dad for me, Alfie.
Thank you, Mr. Henniker.
Alfie reaches his own street, which is quieter. A shabby man, Sammy the gone-off, 40s, shifty, is wheeling a barrow away and looks over his shoulder at Alfie, who doesn't see him as he runs through the open doorway into his building. Interior tenement building continuous. Bam! Alfie trips over a bundle of sacking in the doorway and the food parcel goes flying. He pushes the bundle to one side and it falls open to reveal the dead body of Frankie Lott, who is 14 years old. Alfie is shocked and terrified.
Mum!
Opening titles, Paget, episode title, The Little Dipper. Exterior, ship's deck, day. There's a bustle on board and on the dock side as a passenger steamer enters Tilbury docks. Watching it all from the deck rail is James Paget, an intelligent, smartly dressed young man, mid-20s, of mixed Anglo-Indian race. His English has a cultured Indian accent. An Indian deckhand, Arnav, 40s, laconic, throws a rope out straight into the hands of a man on the quay below.
Do you ever miss?
Years of practice. I've made many voyages. You, Sahib?
My first. I am no sahib.
I say, Paget.
What are you then?
An authoritative Englishman, 50, slim, dapper, with a moustache, walks towards them. It is Edward Henry.
Is everything prepared for when we disembark?
Our bags are packed and chalked, sir.
I'm meeting someone. Spit spot, Paget.
Yes, sir.
The gangplank is being put in place and Henry heads towards it. Other waiting passengers see Paget in conversation with a native Indian and mutter disapproval to one another.
A servant then, I see.
Not a servant. I am a police detective from Bombay, and that is Mr. Edward Henry, Inspector General of Police of Bengal.
Bombay is not in Bengal.
No, Mr. Henry specifically asked for me to accompany him.
Paget!
To accompany him on this trip. Coming, sir.
Well, goodbye, Mr. Paget.
Goodbye. You are?
Arnav.
Arnav the Ocean. 'Tis a good name for a sailor.
Exterior docks moments later, passengers disembark down the gangplank, amongst them Henry and Paget. Trunks, cases and crates are stacked on the quayside. A man approaches. Superintendent Jack Dove, taciturn, honest, is in his 50s. He has a London accent, although not Cockney.
Cold enough for you, sir?
Well, it is a bit brisk. We can dispense with the formalities, Jack. No need for the sir.
Not yet, perhaps. But I do hear rumours about the next Commissioner of Scotland Yard. If they are true, I'll be obliged to call you, sir.
Rumours, Jack.
They're not true? Why else would you travel all the way back here?
Because I've been asked to make a presentation to the Home Office tomorrow. Tomorrow, actually, fingerprinting.
Fingerprinting. Ah, yes.
It's the future, Jack. Paget here's my assistant. Oh, wait, I haven't introduced you. This is Detective Sergeant James Paget of the Bombay Police.
I've heard about you, Paget.
They shake hands. Paget looks confused.
Mr. Henry here wrote to me about you.
Yes, Paget. This is Superintendent Jack Dove. He runs H Division.
Whitechapel, in the East End.
I hear you need another detective sergeant, Jack. We'll be here for a week or two, maybe longer.
Maybe longer?
If I may, I'll put Paget in your care. If he fits in, also well and good. If not, well, you can be honest. You're a fish out of water here, Paget. I know. New country, new city. I'm certain you'll do your best.
Yes, sir.
Report to me later at Brick Lane, Paget. I've arranged accommodation for you. Here's the address.
And I'll see you tomorrow morning at the Home Office. All right?
Sir.
Henry and Dove get in a hansom cab and set off, followed by a cart bearing Henry's luggage. Paget looks around him. He's alone and everything is unfamiliar.
Mr. Paget. Good luck to you, Mr. Paget.
He performs the namaste. Paget looks awkward. He starts to raise a hand, changes his mind, and reciprocates the namaste. Exterior street day. Paget's hansom cab rattles to a halt in a poor East End London street. He dismounts, pays the driver, and shivers at the cold. Looking at the slip of paper, he takes his bag to a front door in a terrace across the street, where he knocks. Mrs. Nash, 50s, Irish, pleasant, opens the door. Mr. Paget, is it? Betty Nash, Mrs. Come on in, would you? Betty should have answered the door. But these girls, what can you do? Can you manage?
Yes, indeed. Thank you.
Sorry, just need to plug my laptop in. Just one go. I'll edit that bit. Interior hallway day. Paget follows Mrs. Nash up some gloomy stairs, struggling with his bags. Will you be staying long, Mr. Paget?
I thought I might be 2 weeks, but I'm told plans may change. I'm sorry if there's a racket, if that's rather vague, Mrs. Nash.
I'm sure we'll manage. Here we are. She opens the door to reveal a large, clean, comfortably furnished room. Paget's surprise is evident. Mrs. Nash laughs. Expect something, didn't you, Mr. Paget?
Not at all. No. Thank you. This will do very well.
Betty Todd, late teens, forward, enters carrying a coal scuttle. There you are, Betty. Make a fire for Mr. Paget now. Betty glances curiously at Paget as she crosses the room.
No, thank you. But there's no need. Not immediately. I'm just dropping off my things. I must present myself at the Brick Lane police station.
My goodness, Mr. Paget, off to an early start. Do you know the way? Of course you don't.
I could show him.
You have work to do, young lady. Off you pop. Come downstairs when you're ready. I'll give you directions. Interior Brick Lane Police Station day. As Paget enters carrying a bag, Desk Sergeant Alfred Perry, gruff 50s, is checking in a man who has just been arrested.
Take him out the back, Charlie. Help you?
My name is James Paget. I'm here to see Superintendent Dove.
Albert.
Albert Jones, 20s, self-effacing, steps out of the doorway.
Show this man through.
It's all right, Sergeant Perry. Superintendent asked me to show him round. Hello, I'm Detective Constable Albert Jones. Please follow me.
This man is a detective sergeant.
Sequence corridor, officer's restroom, holding cells yard. Albert leads the way.
I hear you've just arrived, sir.
Yes, we docked this morning.
These are various offices. That's the filing room. That's us in CID. That's the superintendent. Fairly new here myself. Just a few months. I'm from Streatham, south of the river.
As they enter a larger room, heads turn to look at Paget in his good suit. Cop him.
Blimey.
This is the restroom for the uniform men. Don't mind them. And out the back here,
They move through the room. A cocky man in plain clothes, Ginger Daly, 30s, stands up and follows them.
here are the holding cells, and out here's the yard.
The yard is in the open air, cobbled and walled in with a large double gate at one end. The man who was checked in by Perry and a few others are waiting to be processed. Amongst them is Sammy the Gone-Off. Processing consists of taking of names and of photographs. Also, physical measurements are being taken by a uniformed policeman, while the results are noted by Detective Sergeant Egbert Oates, 30s, plainclothes, moody.
Cribs.
The uniformed man Cribbs is measuring a suspect from shoulder to elbow.
1 foot 2.5.
Next. Elevator rest.
Excuse me. Am I right in thinking you're still using the Bertil Lonage method here?
Standard practice. Yes. You are.
Standard?
What's wrong with it?
We don't use it anymore. Not where I'm from. It's being discredited. It's not dependable.
Where's that?
I'm sorry?
Where are you from?
The Bombay Police. I am Detective Sergeant Paget.
Bombay, and you're called Paget. Why ain't you got one of them darky names?
My father was an Englishman. Just like you, Mr.
Detective Sergeant Daly, like you say, just like you. Well, maybe not just like you.
May I borrow your tape measure?
Cribbs, uncomfortable, passes it to him. Paget measures the suspect elbow to wrist. And that's the end of our extract. Okay, I'm going to kick off because I made a load of notes because I've read it before. Naughty of me, I know. So there are 17 characters in the first 10 pages, but those are only the ones that speak. There are actually way more characters than that, including some that we're introduced to by name and clearly will appear later on. I like the fact that you're establishing them now and then we'll see them again, but 17 characters in 10 pages, that's one hell of a lot. If you include all the street scene and the this, that and the other, I mean, this is looking expensive right from the get-go. Also, there are just a little formatting issue. If you've got people and you're going, you know, hawkermongers and hawkers and costermongers and whatever, they should be in caps because you are introducing people. Page 2, your intro for Edward Henry. You have the voice and then you introduce him. You need to introduce him first and then have the voice, even if he is an anonymous voice only heard in off screen. And I'm in two minds about Mr. Henniker because we don't actually see him at all. So I think you can get away with that one. I'll give you that one. Page 3. I'm wondering whether you need to clarify just that Arnav means ocean in Hindi. It's not all that obvious just from the dialogue. You could, you just might make some reference to it, meaning it, as opposed to just Arnav, the ocean, you know. Page 4, you're introducing some of your characters as you would in a novel. A man approaches, and then you say, this is Superintendent Jack Dove. You have to have the introduction of the character before that. You have to think in terms of this isn't a novel, this is an instruction. Superintendent Jack Dove approaches. It doesn't matter that the character he's approaching doesn't know who he is. And again, I've got another note, all the passengers, if passengers needs to be in caps. Then I was thinking, the ship and the dock scene is very expensive, lots of extras. There are ways of doing it that you can kind of cut it in really close and make it, but I'm wondering whether you even really need it, really. I like the fact that you've set up the body at the start. I wondered if you could make just a little bit more of that instead of just cutting it dead, there's the body, and cutting to the next scene. I'm wondering whether Alfie's going to go, and just make a bit more of it so that we can kind of see that it's a traumatic thing for this little boy, and a bit weird, and just make a bit more of that. But then I was thinking, if you're cutting out the dock scenes and everything, I kind of then wondered from the body onwards what's actually happened in those 10 pages. And actually, there's nothing happened except that Paget's arrived. And I'm really have my note is consider starting later. So that maybe you just have him walking straight into the police station. Maybe that's, you cut all the arriving business out. He's just arriving at the police station, and then you've got the kind of, oh, who the hell are you? You're a bit weird, and we're not used to you, the likes of you, and you've got all of that stuff could do. I don't know. Be interesting to see what the rest of you say. Stewart.
Okay. Well, like Angela, I thought there was a lot going on, and trying to keep up with it as a cold read, trying to keep track of the characters, that then made me ask the question, is this going to be too much for an audience to keep up with? So they have to be very clearly set up, the characters, not introducing too many all at once, in my view. I thought, as Angela said, the body of Frankie Lott being discovered, I assume that's what this drama or thriller is going to be about in terms of solving the murder. Is it? I don't know. Yeah, we shall see, I guess. But it was intriguing. I thought, again, it's very expensive to film, but I love this kind of period drama stuff. So for me, it's very appealing, and I can see why you've written it. You just got to consider it's got to be really tight, the script, and an intriguing story to get commissioned, this kind of stuff, I would imagine. Yeah, again, something we said on another script is about just making sure that the characters don't go too stereotyped, sort of London policemen, and making it kind of quite defined, why are they there and what's their purpose in the story and script, and not just being kind of cardboard cutouts, as it were. I'm not saying they are, but you're just very easy to slip into that. But other than that, yes, I'm intrigued, and I could see this being an interesting, slightly different story, period drama series.
Oh, thank you. So. Ian.
Yeah, I would go along with what's been said already. A lot of characters, a lot of information shared about those characters, but nothing else. No moving any of the story forward after that first opening scene. And I agree. I don't see what the ship, the deckhand interaction with the deckhand adds anything to this part of the story. I wrote down it's 9 pages of nothing. It's really just, we could, just what you're saying, Angela, we could have had this introduced in maybe a different way. I would have liked to have seen perhaps that opening scene broken down and run in parallel along with the arrival, so we're getting a bit of action, rather than all we're getting at the moment is people walking around talking to each other and names of people and what their jobs are in this police station. We're not getting anything. There's nothing moving. So maybe a little bit of that goes alongside it, and it gives us an idea that there's going to be some connection between this new policeman and what's happening already in London. So I think that would be my main thing. Yeah, just more action, I think, really at the front end, get us interested. But I think there's potential, and it is written as a pilot. That's what it said right at the very beginning, doesn't it? So maybe they're trying to introduce as much as they can in the pilot so that we know that there's going to be all these different characters in the future. But I think it's too messy at this very first 10 pages.
Okay, thank you for that. John?
I have to concur with what everybody else says. I mean, the premise of it sounds really good. I do like the premise of it. But the fact that in page 1 you introduce Sammy the Gone-Off, page 2 you've introduced Frankie Lott, and that's it. They don't, if they're involved in this later, introduce them then when it's relevant. To do it now is utterly pointless. And as everybody else has said, the whole 10 pages, you've just, all it is you introducing 17 characters. I don't see as if you present this to somebody to sell it, I cannot see anybody buying it off these first 10 pages because there's nothing happening. This is the first 10 minutes and nothing's happened. You know, you've got to try and sell it. Maybe just introduce the characters when they're relevant. But at the moment, I don't mean to be disrespectful, but this first 10 pages tells me nothing.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that. Catherine?
I'd again concur with everybody so far. It was a bit confusing with regards to the voiceovers. You tended to introduce the characters by other characters after you've put the dialogue by the voiceover, so we're not quite sure on first reading who they are. So as Angela said, it's best to say voiceover by so-and-so in brackets or something, or beforehand or whatever. But it can be confusing, especially on a cold read, as it is this my line? Or, you know, always in the details types of things. With regards to that, note, some of the dialogue is written phonetically in slang. I would suggest putting a word or two to denote what's about to come if you're going to write dialogue in that way, because it can be confusing, even if you're not reading it out loud. For a first read, it'll be taken aback, and it might be a case of them going, you don't understand it, throw it away. And if you want the producer to keep reading, let them know what they're about to read. So, a quick Cockney or Southeast London or something like that before they start talking in a particular accent, if you've written it in the accent. There was a couple of grammar typos. I think you've put full stops when you meant to have question marks here and there. So a quick proofread would be a good idea, just to double check everything's grammatically correct. I agree. There's an awful lot of characters happening in a very short space of time, but not actually that much happening. I understand that you're trying to introduce everybody, but I would try and slim it down to, you can reference other characters, but the amount of money it's going to cost to make a pilot with all those characters and all those scenes could be quite detrimental, and if at all possible, unless you've just got loads of money, maybe you have, I don't know. But things like, I'd have a quick think of if the characters and the scenes perhaps with the boat are actually required at that moment. If they're going to be very, very pertained to the main line of the story, then okay, fair enough. But you can also always just reference things, like saying they're down the dock, or you'll see the dock later, or so-and-so, he'll be in later, he's on lunch, or he's always late, that kind of rubbish. You don't have to actually have the people there if you want to introduce them, technically, especially when you're just trying to sell the whole series. So price-wise, budget-wise, I'd strongly suggest thinking about slimming it down with regards, and just reference things. And also that's, a good way of making people want more. Oh, what was that reference about? The old dangling the carrot on the stick, making us want more, rather than just going, all these people are in it, there's loads, honestly, it's going to be really good. That's just going to confuse people, and nothing really happens in it. It's sounding like it could be really interesting though. So if you slim it down, I'd probably suggest doing that, because that will save you shooting yourself in the foot. That's probably going to make people more interested and more intrigued, rather than just thinking budget, that's too expensive, But other than that, I liked the characters. that all of them, all 17 of them, they sounded interesting, and I would like to hear what happens next. But definitely, maybe a slim down, a proofread, and then I think it would be good to go.
Yeah, I'm thinking about what you said about the ship and the dockyard and everything, and I mean, there are ways of writing it so that you can still get the same emphasis. I remember being told, if you're going to write a big scene, make sure you're going to get a lot of use out of it. Not just a minute of them walking through it, because otherwise you'll have spent a fortune, even in CGI, you'll have spent a fortune setting it up to never use it again. So that's not going to happen. So the way that you avoid getting that cut instantly, or people, is either to not have it in the first place, or if you do want it in, really indicate that these are close shots, that these are two shots, that this is, you're on the ship's deck. Well, make it like not just there's a bustle on board and on the dock side as a passenger steamer enters Tilbury docks. I mean, but it doesn't stop you from having a portion of deck, you know, and really close in on your characters as he's getting his bags ready or something. I mean, but for me, I wouldn't include the dock scene at all. But if you really feel like you need it, I would write it smaller so that you're not incurring so much expense, as it were.
Yeah. Have a think if it's actually going to happen. Are you actually going to have the docks later on in the series? Is it a recurring location? Because otherwise it's redundant, really.
That's the thing, is are they going to go back to the dockyard? Is it going to be part of in which case, yeah, fine. You know, if it's set at the dockyard, you can have a series of warehouses that can front as your dock buildings, and you know, that's not a problem. Yeah, John, you were going to say something.
Yes, just to give you an indication of what, if you're going to use CGI, what you have to take into consideration on average, it's just an average because I know somebody who does it, you're looking at £150 a second for CGI. So even 1 minute of it, even 1 minute, you're £6,000 down.
Yeah. It made me think of Peaky Blinders, so far as go back and have a look at the pilot of Peaky Blinders and see how they did that. They only restricted that to a couple of streets that could have all been built on set, and so a few interiors, and that was it. And you still got because of the way it was shot, you still got the sensation that it was in this murky, grim kind of Birmingham back streets, etc. You know, you still got a sense of it. So yeah, you just have to be clever with it, really. And
but it's probably best to think of it as a long trailer rather than a pilot. With regards to restrictions and budgets and stuff. Yeah,
exactly. I mean, absolutely, yeah. But I do like the idea, and I do vaguely know where this is going, because I am aware of the first fingerprinting did happen in India, was developed in India, and then they came here, and so I know it's based on a true story.
Well, that makes it even more interesting. I always like
makes it interesting.
Something to learn something from it.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is why
that was why I liked the premises of it.
Whilst it is important, then I can see, to get a lot of the detail right. Bear in mind, you're still telling a story, and you can be a little bit, you know. I mean, I'm wondering why
dramatic license
is Arnav going to come in later? Is he really necessary?
Yeah, and Betty, does she really need to be there in the pilot? If she's in there again?
There's a lot of incidental characters. But I'm just wondering, are you just popping them in because they're going to appear in the story later? Or are they just like fleshing out a whole overall world? I think that's what you've got to think. Anyway.
Well, yeah, exactly. Are Harriet and Arthur ever going to be in again? And if not, that whole scene could have been reduced to.
Well, they probably will be, because the murder is probably what they're going to do the whole.
Yeah, well, that's what I was going to say. If they're not in it, you could reduce that scene right down to Alfie in the chip shop, then leaving.
Yeah, you don't need them in the pilot. You don't need them in the pilot.
And then
Yeah.
flinging
Running
the
from the
bits
shop,
into-
tripping over a body. There you go.
tripping
Yeah.
over the body, and that's it. That's Arthur done and dusted. You know, that's Alfie done and dusted. Yeah. Unless, of course, you have it in mind that they're going to come back and question Arthur and Harriet later, and you know.
Well, that's what I thought. But again, they don't need to be in the pilot.
No. And the other way,
it
of
could even be
course,
a voice going, "Slow down, Alfie," and you don't even have to see them. You can be off. You know, they don't need them for the pilot. It's
I mean, the other way of kicking it off is to actually start off with the murder.
Yeah.
And not know who the murderer is because they've got their back to you, but you just see the violence, you know, and then the
Well, it depends on how much they know about the murder. If they want to leave the details unknown, then maybe the audience goes with the police officers. It depends on how they're gonna stage it, but you definitely don't need the parents in there at the moment.
No.
Nah.
Anyway, I hope that's been a help. And
otherwise, very good though.
Yeah, it's all good.
We've spoken before, Robert, so feel free to contact me if you need any clarity.
Yep.